Welcome to the Thumbpicking Jumpstart. In this mini course, we're going to cover some of my best tips and exercises to help you get control of your thumb while wearing one of these. And we'll cover a really cool performance example to put this stuff into practice. Now, before we get started, I want to say that I think that this course is going to be well suited for you if you've been a flat picker or maybe even just a finger picker with bare fingers and you're new to the thumb pick. And I will say this, that no matter what your experience with a thumb pick before, we all have that awkward break-in stage. There's definitely a little bit of a learning curve. I didn't really give it a try until I'd been playing fingerstyle with just my fingers, bare fingers, for quite some time. And even still, I had the movements down, but putting one of these on, things just kind of felt a little awkward. There is that break-in period. I want to encourage you to give it a shot and really push through that, because there's some sounds that you can get with a thumb pick that you just really can't get anywhere else. Most notably, the bass is much more loud and pronounced, and it really helps to fill out the sound when you're playing fingerstyle guitar. Now, what we're going to do in this video is get started with some of the basic moves, some of the essential movements that you need to practice to get used to wearing one of these and to play that solid bass line. That's really what it's all about. So let's get started with our first exercise. Our first exercise is a simple alternation between the 5th string and 4th string. This is really a foundational movement when it comes to playing with a thumb pick, that alternating bass line. And all we're going to do is fret a C major chord here, and we're going to pay particular attention to the C on the 5th string 3rd fret and the E on the 4th string 2nd fret. We want to make sure those are solid. Those are really the only two notes at play here, but make sure you got that C major chord ready. We're going to use it in a later part of the course. And then I just want you to go back and forth. 1, 2, 3, 4 between the two. Make sure that you're starting, the downbeat is the lower note. 5th string. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Loop that over and over. And a pro tip here is to do it with a metronome. That metronome will provide a steady pulse, and you want to make sure that you're starting out giving yourself the best advantage of locking in with the beat. So maybe for a couple minutes, do it without the metronome. Just count to keep your place and just kind of get used to feeling it. But very quickly after, I want you to bring in a metronome and play along to the clicks. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, there are already a few techniques at play. Even in this simple little exercise using 2 notes, we have to look mostly to the picking hand here. Not much happening on the fretboard, as we talked about, but my picking hand, we need to talk about the location, and we need to talk about the little bit of muting that's going on here. First of all, I'm kind of hooked over, and that gives my wrist this nice flat angle. There's nothing like that happening, and I'm not doing that. I don't want to see a lot of bend in the wrist. I want that kind of flat just to take the strain off of my wrist. And if you've ever tried to do this and wiggle your fingers, you feel it, and there's a lot of tension. We want to play tension free. If you did this and wiggled your fingers, you feel tension. In the middle of the radius, your fingers move a lot more freely. So we're going to use that to our advantage when we're setting up good technique on the guitar. So I want that arm to be straight, no bend in the wrist as much as possible. And what we're going to do is lay the palm of the picking hand right in front of the saddle. That's going to give us a cool palm muted sound. And with that palm mute, we have to talk about how much and when is too much. Well, you're going to develop your muting to taste, but what we're really looking for here is just enough mute so that we can still hear the note. I need to know that this is a C and an E. And notice there's a little more mute on the C than the E, and I think that's okay. We want a heavier mute on the lower strings. That'll come into play later when we start fully developing out a little, boom chick kind of sound, right? But what we're doing is just moving the thumb, and notice the thumb is moving at that big joint. It's not moving at this little joint here, this knuckle. It's moving here, okay? And we're keeping that wrist kind of flat, little palm mute, and just going back and forth. Now let's continue this example by simply changing chords just to keep things a little bit more interesting. What we're going to do is move from this C major chord into an A minor. But just like the C major, we're really just going to focus on strings 5 and 4 with the bass line. So play a couple measures over C, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, change, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And just doing that simple exercise is going to help you get the hang of wearing one of these. It takes time. I don't mean to imply that you're going to run through these 4 bars or so a few times and you've got it. If you do, great, that's awesome. But the rest of us generally take a little more time getting used to wearing one of these. Even if you're coming from flat pick world, it can feel a little bit different. So give yourself a break and make sure that you put in the proper amount of time, even on this. I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it really is the foundation that a lot of great thumb picking is built on, as you'll see as we go through the course here. Now the next step is bringing in these 3 fingers, all right? Now let's pause though real quick and talk about these fingers. I use a picking style that is the thumb and these 3 fingers. And my reasoning for doing that is if I'd use my pinky if I could figure out how to do it, because I need all the help that I can get. So I might as well bring on as many fingers as possible, right? And so there are many other styles of picking. I'm going to link to a video here that you can check out that will help you find your own picking style. But I highly encourage you, if you're brand new, to give the thumb and 3-finger approach that I'm going to demonstrate. Give it a shot, give it a fair shake, because I think that it gives you a lot of advantage in certain situations. The most advantage I think that you can have is when you play 4 notes at a time, right? And I mean at a time, not strumming through it, but playing them all at the exact same time. So that's why, or one reason why, I like playing with my thumb and 3 fingers. And again, if you're brand new, check out that video and find your own picking style. That shouldn't preclude you, say, if you're having trouble with a finger, or maybe you have a physical, damage or something on a finger, you can certainly get around that. A lot of great players have. Some of my favorite players even use just a thumb and index finger, all right? But I'm gonna keep going, demonstrating the thumb and 3, which brings us to our next exercise. Let's have a listen. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so you can see that we're building this off of exercise 1, where we just went back and forth, 5th string, 4th string, and then changed chords. But what we're doing here is on beats 2 and 4 of each measure, we're playing the top 4 strings from the chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's teaching these fingers to move as a group, which is, I think, one of the easier ways to step into the thumb and 3-finger picking approach, because these are kind of locked together, right? It's almost like, some sort of squeezing motion, really. But what you want to make sure and do on the guitar is kind of close and get those fingers out of the way. That's the move. And it happens on a beat where the thumb is picking. So the thumb is picking 4th string, and then here, index, middle, ring, and that's all at the same time. So see that sort of closing? It's really just do that. That's kind of what's happening here. But these 3 fingers are more locked together. And we bring them back to the strings to pluck the next beat. just before time. Go slowly here. Don't worry so much about the metronome right off. I want you to just do that. Don't worry about timing at all initially. Just do that. All right? We want all 4 notes sounding on those offbeats, on the 2 and 4 here. And you can kind of feel how we've got that sort of genesis of the boom chick thing, right? We've got a little lift to this, right? Kind of got the backbeat going, you know? Boom, cha, boom, cha, boom, cha, boom, cha. All right? But then we're going to make sure and change chords, which is really just one finger moving from the C to the A. And that A being on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. All right? Now, that exercise really, once you get past the bass line only, I want you to work on that and get good chord tones happening. This is sort of the mental representation that I want you to build. In other words, the picture, the sonic picture in your mind that I want you to try and match. We want those tones to come out all at once, right? On beat 2 and 4. This over the C and this over the A. Do you hear every one of those? For our next exercise, we're going to play in between the beats for the first time. These 3 fingers are still going to be locked together and play the top 3 strings as a unit, but you're going to notice that we're going to separate for the first time the thumb and these 3 fingers. All right, this is another core skill of good finger picking, and this is the exercise. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 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 4. All right, so on the end of 3, we kind of sneak in this little chord, 2, 3, and 4, which leaves beat 4 by itself with the bass, right? So we're just changing the second half of each measure here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Slower. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's do it. Slow down and looping the C chord. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 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 Now, just as with the previous example, I want to make sure that you're hearing all of the chord tones on beat 2 and on the and of 3. We want to hear the top 3 strings ringing nice and clearly, okay? We don't want any, sort of fretting problems. If you hear, stuff like this or even that, then you need to take a look at what's happening here on the fretboard. If you're, coming back too soon and stopping those strings out, try to fight that as well. We want you to come back to the strings to pluck them again just before you need to. That's some of the art that's in this, but don't worry, you can develop that art with exercises like this and by paying attention. So be critical, not critical in a bad way, but be very aware of the sound that is coming out of your guitar. It takes a minute to just get the movement, but right after you get past that hump, I want you to listen critically and tell yourself what you hear. Do you hear good, clear notes? Is that bass line moving along? Did you forget to do your palm mute like I just did? Does it sound good to you? If not, you may need to develop some other skills, and I'm happy to help you out with that if you want to reach out. But if it does sound good, then you're probably ready to move on to the next set of exercises. Let's give a listen to exercise number 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is very much like our very first exercise, except that the bass is a little different. We're using a 6-string, 4th string alternating bass. And I'm fretting a G chord here, just a G major chord. I like to fret it in this way, where I've got the root on the 3rd fret of the 6th string with my ring finger, okay, that low G note, then the B with my middle finger, and then up on top, my 1st finger. If you play it like this, that's cool, it'll work right now, but I'm playing it this way, and all I'm doing is playing the same sort of, on the beat bass line and alternating between 6 and 4, 6, 4, 6, 4, 6, 4. Then I change to an E minor and continue the picking. I'm going to keep my fingers at rest on strings 3, 2, and 1 here, and play this along with a metronome if you've got one. If not, you can find one online that'll give you a good beat along to an appropriate tempo. And about that, you should go slowly and try to find a tempo which you can play this perfectly and you can keep in sync with the beat. And again, like I said before, tap your foot, bob your head, get your body into it. All right, we want to start building that internal clock. All right, so we've got this happening. And the difficult piece here is that jump. We're jumping over the 5th string entirely. We don't want to touch it. And so that's a new movement. And for me, it was just a little bit harder. It was all hard at first, but jumping over that string without bumping it wasn't easy. So take your time here and give yourself a break if you're bumping it, right? Make note of it if you are bumping it, and go slowly and really just focus on maybe exaggerating the movement a little bit, getting way out of the way of the 5th string, and over time bring it down to something like that, which is what we're really looking for. All right, just as before, we're going to add to the complexity of this by introducing some chord tones for our next exercise. This is exercise number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 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 4. So here what we've done is changed the bass line, but that's pretty much it. The bass line and the chords coming from a G major chord. Again, fret it that way, no big deal, or an E minor. And what we're doing is the 6th string, 4th string alternation, but keeping that beat 2, picking, and the and of 3 with the chords 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's slow it down. 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, E minor, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, I want to encourage you to practice this along with a metronome to make sure that you stay locked in with a beat. You really want your thumb to just be attached to that 4 count, right? We want it plucking right on top of each beat. And to me, there's no better way to do that than to practice along with a steady and constant beat like that from a metronome, and then even more so, attach your foot to that too. Pretty much your thumb and your foot are just going to work together in tandem, and that's going to help you kind of create a physical presence for what's happening, what's developing internally, your clock. And that's what we want. So I hope that you found these exercises helpful. They can certainly be challenging. If they're easy for you, then great, I've got more for you. But like I said earlier, most of us had a time, an awkward sort of break-in period when wearing one of these thumb picks for the first time. So spend some time with these exercises. I know that they can help you get over that hump and get on your way to playing some great finger picking music. And join me in the next video where I share a few more exercises and we really start separating out these fingers so that we can start to get to one of the magic components of playing fingerstyle, which is being able to play some melody along with the bass line. That's coming up in the next video. Practice, and I'll see you over there.